So particularly on the administrative side, I think we're saving at least 1 to 1.5 people who we would otherwise have to employ to manage the pieces that Gavel manages. My name is Alex Little. I am the managing partner of a law firm called Litson. We are predominantly a practice that focuses on white-collar criminal defense and high-stakes litigation. We also do sort of interesting regulatory work, particularly in the world of cannabis. So we use Gavel for any documents that are going to be created more than once. So whether that's an engagement letter, a particular type of correspondence with clients, or even sort of documents that are used with courts on a regular basis, we're trying to completely get rid of any sort of repeat drafting of documents. The firm's only been open 3 months. We left an AmLaw 200 firm. And one of the reasons we left was because we really wanted to take advantage of technology in a way that the big firms just don't have the ability to do so. One of the things we really liked about Gavel is we built it into this ecosystem of other automation tools. We used Zapier interfaces with Gavel to create sort of one-click documents. Our client brings in information through Typeform. It lives in Zapier tables. We can then create a series of letters just with single buttons in Zapier, which are feeding into a workflow in Gavel. And then we've created sort of our own particular DocuSign process patch there. So all we have to do is click a document. It either goes to a client for signature, or it goes to them via email, or it goes to another way, but all of that automation is built into a single button. We found that just the stability and the ease of use of Gavel was really, really helpful. Also, the fact that it was able to have an API so we could get documents out of it to send them other places as part of a larger workflow was really important to us. I'm a nerd. Was able to and really enjoyed sort of building that ourselves. We did get some help from a couple of Gavel pros on some of the back-end automation pieces. I can share my screen real quick just for your purposes. This is where our client data lives when it comes in from a lead form or from a client we're talking to. The one that's most interesting, I think, for Gavel is letters. So here, for example, a very basic example is if we have an engagement letter or a non-engagement letter, our assistant can create that letter based on the information over here in the Clients tab that's come in, and some other information we put in about rates, things of that sort, which we put in through these tabs here. It's going to feed that directly into Gavel, and then because it's an engagement letter, it needs to be signed. It's going to kick it to DocuSign all automatically. Non-engagement letters say they haven't paid, or we don't want to actually go through with the engagement, or there's some issue that's happened. We've set up a non-engagement letter that just through a button will provide them with that via email. And again, it's writing everything through Gavel, so it's creating a real PDF based on our templates. We also have templates for the end of an engagement or all sorts of other pieces, billing, things like that, that we're using just clicking one button. It's going through Gavel, compiling the document, creating it to a PDF, then sending it via email, sending it via text, or putting it in Dropbox or somewhere else for the client to have. Everybody is. So anybody who's touching anything client related, which is everybody, is using it in some way, some way, shape, or form. There's no client at our firm who hasn't received a document that's gone through Gavel. The creation of the templates is pretty straightforward, especially the word add-in. I'd say it took folks maybe an hour to get up and running on. So I think that's one of the reasons, again, we chose Gavel, was because it was so easy to use and implement and explain. So particularly on the administrative side, I think we're saving at least 1 to 1.5 people who we would otherwise have to employ to manage the pieces that Gavel manages. In the old days, especially because some of our matters are somewhat complicated to get adjustments to engagement letters out, it might take 3 to 4 hours or half day for somebody sort of running around to do that now in Gavel automatically with conditional yeses and nos and forms. So it's saving per engagement letter that might take us previously half a day to get out the door. We can get out the door in 5 minutes from the client. The result is not just the saving of that time, which means one person isn't stuck doing that. It also, for the client, makes you much more responsive, and I think helps us with clients more quickly because they see how responsive we are. We say an engagement letter is coming, and they get a customized engagement letter that's pixel perfect, it's in their email for DocuSign. On the substantive side, whether it's a court filing document or case where you've got a recurring set of filings, the benefit there is twofold. One is the speed. Again, you're sort of saving yourself time. It's a much easier process. But the other is consistency, and issues are vastly reduced by using a system that has maybe chunks of text saved in. For example, we have a particular type of motion to continue or change the trial date, we can include maybe the 3 different forms of language or the 4 different types of explanations for why we need that in the Gavel template. And then it's very, very simple for us to select one and then print and sort of go with that version. I think it makes everybody feel like we're doing things more modern. It does make their life easier. It makes them not have to worry about things they shouldn't have to worry about, right? If there's something we can automate in Gavel, it's not something that should be using lawyers' brain power. We should dedicate that for the hard questions and not for sort of the logistics of a law firm. And I think so much of what a lawyer generally deals with, which isn't a lot of fun, is the minutia of those logistics. I think it's important at the outset to know what your goal with the technology is. I think we had a pretty clear goal coming in of saying we were going to try to automate as much as we could to take staff time to a minimum and to make life easier on lawyers. But you need to know enough about your practice to know where that can go, right? And so I think it doesn't take very long to actually integrate Gavel mechanically into what you're doing. I do think you have to think and spend enough time about what you want your practice to look like when it is at sort of its most efficient state. The time from a lead coming in to that person being a client, I think, has been cut by 90% because the administrative pieces of that are super, super quick. I think another huge piece is the compliance around the documents you should have is probably 2 or 3 times. So what I mean is, does everybody have an engagement letter? Does everybody, if it's a civil litigation case, get a document preservation letter? If the client's case is over, are they getting a disengagement letter? It is so much easier when you have those things automated through Gavel to make sure you're doing them. We're talking 2 to 3 to 4 times a higher rate of compliance with the sorts of things that lawyers should be doing to protect themselves in the practice of law. I think at some point we will be able to have sort of Lego-like construction of a lot of the documents and correspondence we're doing. Another reason we left Big Law is because we're trying to stand up different micro practices, siloed practice areas that are focused on one particular thing. For example, in Tennessee, we have a hemp compliance practice, which is focused on hemp regulations in Tennessee that is run really heavily with Gavel involved in the documents, the things we're creating there. But there are other areas, particularly around real estate. I think there's a huge, interesting opportunity around the post-NAR settlement for folks who know about the National Association of Realtors and how that's affecting real estate contracts for buyers and sellers. I think there's a huge opportunity for Gavel type tools to help lawyers enter that space. And that's kind of where we're going next for our sort of next micro practices, residential real estate.